Okay.
We're
All right.
live.
I think we're there. Wonderful. Hello, everybody. Welcome to On Demand. And today I want to show you these three things that absolutely unleashed money flow in my life. Now, I want to share something with you as somebody who grows businesses online and does a lot of digital marketing. There is a difference between me saying cash flow and me saying money flow. How do I know that? I've tested it. Okay, so I'll give you a great example. I had called a webinar, a video sales letter that was named X, like it had a title on it, it had a headline, and it wasn't really working. Have you ever literally put a campaign out on the internet or post a video and you're like, this thing isn't catching, it's like crickets? Put a C in the chat if you've ever put something out and it was like crickets. Put a C in the chat, okay? Because I want to know that I'm not the only person out there. Yeah, so it doesn't always mean that your content is not landing with people. It also doesn't always mean that your message is not landing with people. And so we took a video that had the same, like I did like a full blown, I don't know how many minutes it is, call it 10 minutes long. I did a 10-minute video and had a certain headline on it, and it just didn't pull. And somebody on my team, one of our copywriters on our team at Hardcore, just made a small tweak. And by the way, I hated the name. Do you know how many people come to me and say, Shanda, what do you think about my messaging? I'm like, listen, like, you just never know. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know until you take the same video. I took the same video and I put it out there over and over and over again. It was a video that literally helped somebody make a decision if they wanted to work with me and let me help them build their businesses. You guys following? Yes? So change the title. And I'm telling you, when I tell you that I hated the title, I mean, I hated the title. But I've learned over the years that I don't get in the way of success. And so there's three questions that I ask myself, and it really stops the spin. It stops me overthinking things. It stops me thinking I know better, right? And it actually just gets me into committed action, and it unleashes money flow. And so I share this with you because one little tweak in our messaging was the difference between, I have to add it all up, but I would be willing to bet somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3 million with a different title. Big, right? It's huge. This is a video I could have thrown out. Nothing changed on the page, but the headline on the top. None of the video, that the registration video, the content below, it was the headline. So I share this with you today because the question is are you hooking your ideal customer or client or buyer, whatever you call, are you hooking them in the area that they're thinking in? Okay, and so it might not be you. It might be a tweak in how you're speaking to somebody on a headline. And I can't tell you how many times my heart has gone out to entrepreneurs. They're like, it's not working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have a great conversion rate. You just don't have enough people. And it's so sometimes you think that I need to go, or you need to go back to the drawing board on something. And the truth is that you might not need to. So I'm going to help you with some data today. What's good, what's not good. And I'm going to ask you to answer these three questions. And we're going to start at that foundation. You guys with me? Put yes. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have our team watch on social media, watch on the Zoom, and I am going to gift three people my runway journal where I'm going to send it to you. And all I want to see is you actually go in the chat, and I want to see you be a contributor in the chat and share aha moments. When you have an aha moment, like some of you guys just had an aha moment. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not doing so bad. I just need to keep playing with my headline a little bit more aggressively, and not like I teach people how to do online interview series all the time. And people will be like, oh, it didn't work. I only had 300 people show up. Like, and I'm like, the people didn't like promote it. I'm like, well, maybe they did promote it and your headline sucked. And you thought it was good because you ran it through a data analysis. You're like, it's good, but like nobody knows it's good until you see are people actually engaging with you. Sound good? Yes? Okay. So the three questions that I ask myself before I launch anything to get me out of my own way is I think about number one. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. Okay, I think about number one, I'm going to call it my client, right? Your buyer, right? Because I teach coaching, so I refer to my buyer's base as my clients or my members. Make sense, right? So this is my buyer. This is your buyer. So when I ask about now, you could do this seasonally, right? Like it's coming into the holiday season. So if you asked yourself right off the gut, like right off the cusp, like what is your buyer thinking about right now? I'll tell you what mine's thinking about. You are my buyer, right? You're entrepreneurs building businesses. I would be willing to bet you're starting to feel the pressure of the end of the year. You're starting to feel like if I'm going to hit any final goals, I need to step it up. I need to close the tension. I recently sat back and I was like, I'm kind of sliding into the end of the year. And I was like, why am I sliding into the end of the year? Why don't, now write this down, this is a mic drop. Why don't I become more generous? Okay, so generosity creates great profitability. Okay, generosity creates great profitability. And so you should write that down. You should put it on the wall. I'm not joking. If there's any word that's unleashed me over and over and over again, is when I felt quote unquote stuck or like I don't know what to do or I feel frustrated with something, just get generous, right? Like sometimes it's not going to pay you to be right about something not working. Does that make sense? Yes. So number one, I think about my buyer and I think, what are they thinking about right now? Well, my buyer's thinking about it's the end of the year. If I'm going to hit it, I need to hit it now. The season's coming. They're probably already starting to think about 2025 in January a little bit. What do I want next year to look like? I'm going to kind of get a little resigned about this year because it's over. Entrepreneurs always like, they embellish things. It's like, it's over. The year is over. It's like, no, you still have a lot of weeks left to the year. It's not really over, right? You got a couple months. It's not really over. But yet I know my buyer, they're in a mindset right now. They feel like the year's over, right? Like, it's like, what happened, but it's over. So I need to think about next year. What do I want to create next year? So that's a visionary. Does that make sense? And visionaries are always going past where they're at to look at where they're going. And that is inbred in you. Okay. So am I right? Did I get a good foundation about that? Like what's kind of going on in your head? Like, when you're walking around, you're kind of like, okay, well, the year's kind of over. Like, what do I want to do to finish up this year? You might be saying, what do I need to do to finish up this year strong? I've got family that I need to think about, or I got a trip, or like I've got Christmas, like you're thinking about stuff, right? Like your mind is starting to get busy with the holidays. Am I right? And you're probably having an essence of thinking about 2025. Okay. Now, where do I want? So I'm thinking about the mindset. If there's anything I can tell you is sell a mindset, don't sell a product. Sell a mindset, don't sell a product. Okay? Now, the second part that you want to look at is this piece. So you've got the mindset. You got to get connected with the mindset. People do it. They don't do this work and they just fling out something. Okay, so what is the mindset of people, your buyer right now? Write some notes down real quick. What are they thinking about? What are they thinking about? Like, what are they starting to stress about a little bit? What are they feeling inspired about or feeling good about? So what are they feeling good about? What are they feeling a little stressed about? What's on their mind? And then the next part with this buyer is what's in the gap? Okay, the gap is where the money's at. If you can solve the gap. This is where people make huge mistakes because they like, there's a couple different classes of you guys out there. Some of you guys who defend how great you are all the time, and you do that because of insecurity issues. Okay, and then there's some of you guys who undervalue yourself, right? But it's still about you. And so a lot of times when I teach this, people they revert back to, I want to sell my product or service. Don't do that. If you have not sold what you wanted to sell in 2024, you need to tweak the hook. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about what that means in a different way that I think is going to unleash you. Okay, and you could do that today. Like you could change everything in the course today. Okay, so you might sell the same product or service, but you're going to package it differently. Okay, and that's connected to your buyer's gap. Okay, their gap is what's in the way. What needs, like, who do they need to hire? What do they need to be true? What needs to shift in their character? You know, what's in the gap? Do they not have the education? Like, what's in the gap for your buyer? So write down a couple bullets about what you think. So you're like, what are they thinking about? What's stressing them out? What's like they're kind of happy about? Like, what's on their mind? And then what's in the gap? Like, why do they still have a gap? Why is there still something in between what it is that they say they want, but they're still stressing about some things because it didn't exactly happen? And when I say that to you, I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't have stuff in the gap. If you want to make money, you need to articulate the most relevant, biggest priority piece of the gap. Some people would say the most painful part of the gap. Does that make sense? So have you guys ever read Dan Sullivan's book, The Who and Not the How? The Who and Not the How. One of the best books I've ever read. The Who and Not the How. My friend Benjamin Hardy wrote the book and collaborated with Dan Sullivan on that book, and it's Dan's kind of process. And Dan has a great company called Strategic Coach, and a lot of people don't invest in Strategic Coach because it's a lot about systems and organizations, right? But what a lot of people on my level do is they send their key leaders in there. Does that make sense? Because it's like, I don't want to go do systems. But if I was to look at most of you guys as a business owner, in your gap has been a who, usually. You know what I mean? Like for Esteban, I see he has a who where it's a business marketing person. Does that make sense? I actually might know that person for you. Okay, I just dawned on me. I actually think I know that person for you. Okay, and so for some of you guys in the gap is you don't have enough leads. For some of you guys in the gap is you know, it's like I never made a real decision on what my flagship product was going to be. But you need to own it. Okay, you get it? Like, so some of your buyers are not owning their gap, they're complaining about their gap. Does that make sense? Like, I own the fact that I have got some key I have 2 who players in my company that we didn't put into place quick enough. Right? And it's very, very clear. Does that make sense? If those who's were there, when we had a who there, it produced a lot of great leadership and a lot of cash flow. Does that make sense? Same everything, but a who, it was like they could lead that piece really well. Does that make sense? Yes? So in your customer client buyer's gap, so in my food game, looking at Esteban again, it's a who for me again. It's somebody who knows how to eat clean. That can food prep or make food for me 2 to 3 times a week. Does that make sense? Because I can I want you guys to see this. If I was your buyer and I was trying to get in the best shape of my life or train for a fitness competition or reverse diabetes or you know, I was like, I'm not going to have any like extra, like anything on my body, whatever it is, right? Like whatever the scenario is. If my mindset was, well, another year went by and I still don't feel confident in my body. I still have low energy or I still have, do you guys see what I'm saying? That's the mindset. The mindset's like, I'm dragging, I'm getting out of bed tired. I'm not getting a good night's sleep. I'm, you know, grabbing from sugary food or drinking too much coffee. You guys get it? That's the mindset. Well, what's the deeper mindset of that? The deeper mindset of that is I don't feel good in my body. See the mindset? So the mindset's where you're hooking, right? You're like, it's empathetic. It's you're going into wherever that person, you're like walking into my office with me. You're walking into my bedroom with me. You're walking into my shower with me. You're walking into my marriage with me. You're walking into sitting down at my desk as an entrepreneur and facing this day in front of me. Right? Many of you guys started the day facing the day in front of you and looked at the day. There's not really a plan. I'm facing another day. Let's see what I create. Do you guys follow me on that? That's a mindset. I'm in the moment with them. The gap is a plan. The gap is clarity. The gap is a who. The gap is, do you see what I'm saying? So you have to see that. You cannot lead anything. If you want to know when I give up on somebody, it's when they won't take responsibility for their role. I'm like, you're right. It's everybody else, not you. You're right. But a who that's a strong leader will walk in and say, I'm going to close this gap because I can see for myself how to close that gap, and I don't have to know all of it. I just need to pull the levers. Got it? Yes? So now the third question that you have to ask yourself to unleash money flow really comes down to, how can I help? And people the approach on this matters. Okay, the approach isn't, I've got a goal to make a bunch of money and do this and Black Friday, what am I going to sell? And I hear it all the time. What am I going to sell? And you sell shit that nobody wants. Because it's not empathetically packaged, because you actually haven't thought, I don't know, what's the mindset my buyer's in right now that I could enter into the conversation so that they get that I get them? What's the gap that they have been facing all year or right now or between now and the end of the year? What do you see? You might see different gaps. You find one that feels most pressing. They're like, that's the biggest priority gap right there. If I talk about that, if I enter into a conversation on where they're at emotionally, mindset-wise, what are they thinking about? And then I identify the gap. This is a couple sentences. Right? The less words, the better. This is a couple sentences. Then what happens is, how can you help them? Okay, how can you help them? You got it? Yes? So now I want you to ask yourself, if you follow that framework, watch how I can do this. I'll take fitness. I'll take you, Esteban. You have a client that has, okay, so gosh, I want to go, do I want to go the men's side or the woman's side? But like as a man, I'm not a man, but I have a man in my life. And when I look at the men in my life and they're not in great shape, that's what Esteban does, right? When they're not in great shape, they are often very, very sensitive about their middle area. Do you know what I mean? Like all of them, like if you touch their stomach or you make a little funny little joke, they're like, I know, I need to get in shape. And they say the same thing over and over and over again. I need to get in shape. I need to commit. And it's the same freaking words. Am I right? Do you guys hear me? It's the same words. That's a mindset. Because what comes out of your mouth is what's going on in your head. It's a mindset. Well, they're not moving anywhere until you can establish the gap. And you need to say the gap like a mic drop. Right? Like, and it could be in the form of a question. What if I could tell you that you could lose all of your belly fat in the next 60 days if you have 20 pounds or less to lose? Or 25, I don't know what Esteban's number is, right? Or like, what if I could tell you that you could become a millionaire in 7 months? What if I could tell you that you could find your husband or your wife in 90 days? Proven. See how it could be a question? It needs to be true. But see how I could propose a question to, like a question in the gap to the mindset. Or I could flip it and say, how would you like me to show you how to create a 7-figure business in 7 months? How many guys would be interested in that? Put a 7 in the chat. Right? You should be, of course, because it's a direct, clear message. Now, what if I was like, let's talk about growing your business. Let's talk about making some more money. Let's talk about, it's a lot more general. So what happens when it's a lot more general? This, you got to hear me when I say this. This feels less risky because you don't want to leave anybody out. And so you go a little bit more general, right? For some of you guys who never posted who you voted for, right? You're like, right? Like, it's like, yeah, you did that because you playing the broad game. You're playing the let's not stand out game. I don't want to get in trouble or hated or, you know what I mean? Like, that's why you did it, right? Is because you want to just keep that private so that you don't, so that's coming out in your marketing. Okay, so I use that as an example because it's a heated conversation right now. And I want you to see it. Do not justify why you didn't share it with someone. Because whoever you voted for might have, if you think that was the right person, if you would have shared it with more people, you might have been able to turn more people to that vote. So if you really care about the country, did you share it or did you keep it personal? As a leader, you want to indoctrinate if you think that you're right. Does that make sense, you guys? You cannot, the more broad you are on how you can help somebody, the less sticky your message is. And it's not intuitive because you think, I don't have enough traffic, I don't have enough people, I don't have a big enough social media or email list. And so I'm gonna just cast a net wide and help people lose weight, or help people make money, or help people date, or help people, like, I'm not gonna help them get married. I have a true client that didn't cross $1 million till they finally stopped talking about partners and they said, you want to find your husband versus you want to find your forever person. That's the broad is broke mentality, okay? When they finally took a stand, they popped to $1 million, right? What will take them to $1 million to multiple million is literally leadership inside their company. Them not focusing on lead generation, them not running marketing. That, like, literally them just making that one strategic hire would grow them significantly because they could take off a hat and they could just do what they do. They already know what they offer. They already know what they're doing, but they haven't unleashed the fear of putting out money feels like an expense versus understanding that that would grow them, like in 30 days. Are you guys following me? Yes? Or did I lose some people? You following me? Okay. So when I'm looking at anything, so I'm just like you, there's times where I'm like, I'm just kind of like not feeling it. You know what I mean? And I come back to these 3 freaking questions. I'm like, Shanda, what is the mindset of my buyer in right now? I need to be thinking about what are they worried about? What are they, and it's not general. It's like, it's deep, right? What is the state of their mindset right now? Okay. And then what's in the gap or what has been in the gap this year that has prevented them? That's how you get better as a leader, is to articulate that. I honestly feel like some of my best coaching is going to come out at my client's Palm Springs Mastermind because I can see exactly what needs to shift, and it can shift in a day. Does that make sense? And if I could hold them accountable, they go to the next level before the end of the year, right? Like, it's that quick, right? But like, it's a blind spot if you're just working in the weeds and you don't stop and start thinking about your people. Do you get how powerful this is? Like, what would the world look like? What would marriages look like if we just stopped and we thought about, what is the current mindset of my spouse? What is the current mindset of my child? What, instead of like pounding what you need to get done into people, if you shifted, you could lead, you could build versus react. Are you guys hearing what I'm saying? You could build, but the only way you get out of a struggle is to get empathetic. It's the only way you get out of a struggle is to get empathetic. Otherwise, I'm certain that you are right about the fact that your clients or buyers aren't buying or not sticking to the workout plan or not. You know, I could be right about all my clients not showing up to their calls and doing enough one-on-one calls to get good at closing. Like, I could be totally right about all that. And I'm certainly probably am right. But it doesn't help your buyer for you to be right. What helps them is for you to understand them. You got it? And unleash them from the spot that they're drowning in. Got it? Then how can you help them? If you could get generous here, right? You got Black Friday right now. You've got Cyber Monday. You've got, by the way, you could launch Black Friday in January. It could be a New Year's sale. It could be your birthday sale. It could be your kid's birthday sale. You get what I'm saying? Like you can create, there's a calendar of like Women's Day, Men's Day, all the other kind of days. I know there's one on Google, right? Or Google's, as my mom would call it. My mom doesn't call it Google. She says, I'm going to check Google's. It's kind of a cute little thing she does. But my point is that you could launch a Black Friday style sale anytime. So just know that. You can also launch right now based on what's going on right now. So if you ask yourself this question third, how can I help? You will come up with something different than what you've been doing. It might include what you've been doing. It might be a better version of what you've been doing. You might be new and improved version of what you're doing, or it could be something that you're kind of evolving into because you're getting better, because you're asking the right questions. Who's following me? Right? Okay, so has anybody gotten an idea? Has anybody, like, your brain starting to work? Like, instead of just listening to me, start jotting. So this morning when I was doing this the end of last week as well. I was like, okay, my current state of my buyers I shared with you. The gap is that people are in the weeds and they're not actually being strategic enough. They're working, but they're not getting strategic enough to unleash the weeds. Okay, because they don't know what they don't know. And so I have to go and show it to them. Like what's good, right? Like, I could show you how to do a video online and to get calls booked through social media, through ManyChat, through paid advertisement. And you could do one video on one script and hire a couple salespeople and go borrow money on a line of credit or borrow a couple $1,000s from somebody or $10,000 from somebody, and that video can book calls for you or a salesperson. Do you know what the close ratio should be on that? Let's call it a $5,000, $3,000, $10,000 product. What's the close ratio that should be on that? Go in the chat, let me know. Let's see. Go in the chat. What do you think the close ratio should be on that? Go in the chat. 80%, 20%, 30%, 30%, 30%, 25%, 50%. 40%, 20%, 35%, 90%, 30, 105. Not one of you guys got it correctly. So I'm completely accurate. You don't know what you don't know. If it is a video and it is booking a call for someone to take, whether it's you or somebody else, it should be 15% on a cold lead conversion. That's not warmed up. It's not gone to an event. There hasn't been, like, you get what I'm saying? It is a cold lead. So now just do the math. If you do the math and you could produce, let's call it 40 leads in a month, just pretend. Pretend those 40 leads cost you $100. That's $4,000. Okay, some of you guys would be scared to do that. That's not real cost, it's actually less. But say it was 40 leads for $4,000. Let's put it into perspective. Let's actually 40 leads for, let's call it $50 a person, $2,000. Okay, so so many of my clients have no idea how well they have it. Okay, but for $2,000, if I showed you how to do a video, booked it, and you got 40 people on a phone call. Out of that 40 people, 15% should close, which is 6. Or it's not being done right. And out of that 6, if you sold a $3,000 product, that would be $18,000, right? If you sold a $6,000 product for 6, that'd be $36,000. See, what many of entrepreneurs do is they say, well, I think I can close at this rate, or I don't know how anybody would buy at that rate. And they're all caught up in the weeds of worry. And they're not growing their company from math and data. This is the stuff I'm going to be going deep into in my client's mastermind, right? And I'm sure it'll come out on our platforms next year as I continue to open this up for people. But this is what I have realized doing this for my clients. How can I help? That would be valuable, right? So that they can really, truly, like, the Bible says that my people will perish without a vision. Do you know how many people are working without a vision? They're just freaking working. You know who you are, right? And it's like, I have to. It's like, yeah, but trust me, when you have a vision, it's like you float over the problems. You have a bigger bandwidth. You don't get burnt out, right? You can handle a lot. You know what I mean? Guilt, blame, doing things right, doing things wrong, making money, losing money. You can handle it all because you have a clear vision. I have a very clear vision. I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay. In fact, I just created something called the Core Crew for Hardcore starting in January. And there's a memo going out to key people that are invited in our company to the Core Crew. And the purpose of the Core Crew is to be unbreakable in 2025. You get what I'm saying? And I've already mapped out every single meeting for the Core Crew for 2025, and it's a memo going out for my internal company. Does that make sense? Because I'm looking at where's the current state of my team's mindset? What's in the gap? Right? How can I help? That's what a leader does in marketing, in business growth, in marriage, in family, in everything. And it totally changes your value of your why. Is this helpful, you guys? Is this okay? So you got to do something with this. Okay, like I'm telling you, you need a lot less support in the areas of mental therapy, motivation. You need a lot less of people trying to pull you out of the doghouse of emotions, or let's just say feeling defeated or feeling like you don't have a lot of drive. That is all coming from a lack of vision. Okay, and when you do this, I dare you to do this in a relationship that isn't quite clicking, and I dare you to do this in your business for your marketing and to do something with it fast. So the last piece I'll say is money loves speed. Okay, so I'm going to work with 2 core groups next year. 2 core groups in a small group capacity. And I'm going to take people who have made $250,000 or more a year. This came out of doing this exercise. Okay, I'm like, how do I do my best work? What's in the gap with people? Right? And so if somebody's done $250,000 in 1 year or more, it could be 500,000, 300,000, 800,000, whatever, right? But I'm like, there's all these people in this realm that I can pop to 7 figures in 7 months. And I've designed a program that I'm going to work with them every single month for 7 months. And I'm going to hit a 7-figure company for a small group of people, right? The second thing that I said, and I was like, I'm showing you, I was like, what's the next group that I want? I want people who are at 7 figures already, or really, really close to 7 figures. Right? 800,000, $1 million, they're, you know what I mean? Like they're like right there. Well, I already know this metric. I know this metric pops to 7 figures very easily. I know 200, 250 pops to 7 figures very easily. I've done it many times with great clients. Okay? And 7 figures to multiple 7 figures, but my goal is 8 figures. I know how to scale a 7-figure business to 8 figures. You don't have to spend the next 5, 6, 7 years. I've done this even on my worst financial years, where you shouldn't do that type of income. Does that make sense? But because there's a formula to it. So I did this process that I'm telling you, and I was like, okay, where's the gap? And then I was like, how can I help? Well, if I worked with 10 people, I could pop 10 millionaires. If I worked with 10 people that were already millionaires, I could pop 10 8-figure business owners. What would that do to the culture of my community? A lot. It would be a huge benefit to the member base instead of inside of Hardcore, because now I could rely on certain people that I could partner with to continue to help raise the success of our members at Hardcore. I can partner with them financially. I can partner with them. With the community. I can partner with I now have new business partners that I can work with. Does that make sense? Do you guys hear it? So I share this with you because when you do this, I don't know what's going to pop for you. But what I do know is your best work is coming forward. And it's not in more grind. It's not in complaining. It's not in blaming people. It's not in any of that. It's about getting empathetic to wherever the problem is. In this case, it's thinking about the mindset of your buyer, thinking about what's been in the gap for them, right? And how can I help? How can you help? So by the way, if you're someone who has an interest in being in the 7-figure club or the 8-figure club, then I'm going to drop my email for you. Do not email and ask me for coaching. This is my real email. Okay? Shanda.Sumter. Do not email me for coaching advice. Okay? Like I'm trusting you. Shanda.Sumter@gmail.com. Shanda.Sumter@gmail.com is my personal email. Okay? I don't have a Shanda at Hardcore Business because people would be going after me all the time. So do not message me for coaching. Go to clientcare@hardcorebusiness.com or something like that and ask them your business questions. But if you have an interest in being one of the 10 people in the 7-figure club or the 8-figure club, and you hit those qualifications, send me an email today, put a 7 or an 8 in the subject line, and I will get back to you personally. You'll not be going through anybody else, and I'm going to hand select a small group of 10 people that I'm going to work with for 7 months in the 7-figure club and 8 months in the 8-figure club. And I'm going to give you my all to pop your business and to have you go to that next level. This is a wrap on Shanda On Demand. I will be going live next week, and after next week, that will be the last one of the year. I'm not saying I won't go live. I'm just saying I won't be going live on the platform every single week. I come to an end. I do this every single year. I take most of December off, and I spend it with my family. I always laugh when people say, "You're working too hard. I'm concerned about you." I'm like, trust me, if you add up my time off, I get about almost 4.5 months a year that I actually take off. And just like you need that. It's a strategy. It's what actually creates bandwidth for me to think. Does that make sense? Because as you grow these companies, I think it's so easy to grow a 7-figure, a $5 million, a $6 million company. That doesn't take a lot of skill set. That's a formula. When you start going over 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, I've grown a $170 million business inside of less than 2 years. That is a different game. And that requires you taking off hats and getting into your lane and having the bandwidth to deal with the fires that happen because you don't have who's in the right position. Does that make sense, you guys? Yes? You got it? So I see you. I love you. I'm honored that you guys allow me to speak into your life. I'll be here next Tuesday for the last Shanda On Demand. If you have a request of something that you want me to finalize the year with, you can go ahead and put that in the chats right now and say topic, the word topic, put the word topic, and tell me what you'd love the last Shanda On Demand of the year to be next Tuesday. I'm happy to look at all of that and to choose one. And of course, we'll send out emails and text messages to share what the topic is going to be. Until then, do this exercise. It will light the fire that you're looking for underneath you. All right, you guys, bye, social.